Namaskar friends, welcome to session 29 in the course on work system design, and currently we are in the 6th week of our discussion, and in 6th week today is the 4th session which will be of half an hour. And if you remember, in the previous 3 sessions we have covered the string diagrams, then we have covered the principles of motion economy, and then we have covered micro motion study. Today the target is Therbliks. And if you remember, in the last session when we have studied micro motions, we have seen that if we are able to analyze the work being carried out at the very basic or fundamental level or at the most elemental level, we can find out the sequence or pattern of these micro motions which can help us to reduce the fatigue of the worker, can reduce the cycle time as well as improve the productivity of the labor. So in order to do that, we require 2 things. First thing is how to break down the work into the most elemental level or at the micro motion level. So that can be achieved with the help of Therbliks. And the other thing is that we need to do it in respect of time. So what can be the units of time? And units of time, if you remember, we have seen that in winks we use the time unit, that is 1 wink is equal to 1/2000 of a minute. So that is basically the 2 things, that is the time scale and the division or the breakdown of the work into the most elemental form, that is the micro motion form. So we have seen that how we can do that, and how we can do that we have seen that we have to first film the operation being conducted or performed by the worker. So for that we can use the most sophisticated video cameras that are available these days. Then we have to analyze, select the cycles that we want to investigate or a number of cycles that we want to examine. Thereafter, frame by frame, by moving the film at a very slow frame speed, we can try to analyze, we can try to jot down, note down that what are the basic elemental movements or motions of the limbs. Maybe the work is being done by the hands. We have seen an example of assembly of nut, bolt and a washer. So there we can try to analyze the basic motions of the hands and try to jot them down along with the time scale. So we have a time scale and we have this micro motion, and when we combine them together we are able to draw a CMO chart. Now what is a CMO chart, that we will be covering in the subsequent session, but today our target is for the next maybe 25 minutes or so we will be trying to understand that what are the various micro motions. But prior to going to that, we need to understand that what are the application areas of the micro motion study. And if you remember, in the previous session we have understood the basic concept of the micro motion study. Today our target is to understand the technique of Therbliks which will help us to analyze the work at the basic or the elemental level. Now micro motion will help us as an aid in studying the activities of 2 or more persons or a group work. So we will be able to analyze the work being done by the worker at the most elemental or the basic micro motion level. It can help us as an aid in studying the relationship of the activities of the operator and the machine. Now how the operator is operating the machine with the help of basic movements of the hands and the feet, that level of analysis can be done using the micro motion study. It can help us as an aid in obtaining the motion time data for time standards. So this motion time data for time standards, we can try to understand motion time data for time standard. This we can understand when we will study the concept of work measurement or time study. So there we will be using this information which is generated by the micro motion study for setting the standard time for performing the various tasks. Micro motion study can also act as a permanent record of the method and time of activities of the operator and of the machine. So basically Micro motion study is helping us in both our objectives. One objective is to develop, design a better method, a best method of doing the work. Second objective is to find out the standard time required for performing the work using the standard method that we have followed using method study. So micro motion study is helpful in both accounts. It will help us to find out the proper or optimal sequence of motions which can economize the effort of the worker on one hand. Also with time scale, it will help us to find out the elemental time for each micro motion which can be added up to find out the standard time for doing the operation or the task at hand. So it is an important point, or it is an important ingredient, or it is an important maybe portion of the work study, or we can say the topic work system design. So we can see that micro motion study is very important, and then it can help us both in finding out a best method as well as the standard time for performing the task. So today our focus area is Therbligs, which is an important element of micro motion study. Now what are Therbligs? These are the some historical perspective of Therbligs. So we have Frank and Lillian Frank and Lillian Gilbreth, and if you write Gilbreth in the opposite form, for example Gilbreth, so if you write it in the reverse order, it will be Gilbreth. So this is Therbligs are from these two scientists, Frank Gilbreth and Lillian Gilbreth. The word Therblig was the creation of Frank Bunker Gilbreth and Lillian Moller Gilbreth. These are American industrial psychologists who invented the field of time and motion study. It is a reversal of the name Gilbreth with th transposed. You can see here. So this is maybe the basic essence of the word Gilbreth. Maybe in some of the interviews somewhere you may be asked that what are Therbligs and why they are called Therbligs only. So you can very easily answer the question with the help of the last sentence, that it is the reversal of the name Gilbreth with th transposed. Now what these are the Therbligs. You can see box here. There are two things. There are micro motions. Number one, their names are given. Number two, the symbols are given. These are the symbols, and here we have the symbols here. What is the third thing? Maybe a very common sense based question. The third thing is the colors of the Therbligs. So three things are there: the description of the Therblig, which is, for example, I read for you: search, find, select, grasp, hold, transport, loaded, transport, empty. So the description for each micro motion. Second is the symbol of each micro motion. Third is the color of each micro motion, or the color of the symbol for each micro motion. So this is a summary of the micro motions, and then when we analyze a particular work, we divide it into the basic micro motions, and then for each micro motion we can use a symbol, and the color for that symbol will be different. Now the description, you can see Therbligs are 18 kinds of elemental motions used in the study of motion economy in the workplace. So if you remember, we have already studied in this particular week, that is week number 6, already we had a session on string diagram, then principles of motion economy, and then we had a discussion on micro motion study. Today we are discussing Therbligs. So we already are focusing on economizing the motions. In principles of motion economy, we have seen that how we can try to make our task easier, make our task efficient, make our task effective. Then we have seen that we need to focus on the micro motion level also. In the previous session we have focused on micro motion study, and today we are trying to understand that how we can implement the method study at the micro level, and at micro level we will make use of these therbligs which are represented with the help of different colored symbols. So a workplace task is analyzed by recording each of the therblig units for a process, with the results used for optimizing of the manual labor. So optimization of the manual labor is the important objective of conducting the micro motion study, and this is achieved by eliminating the unnecessary movements. So when we need to eliminate the unnecessary movements, first and foremost is we must be able to identify the unnecessary movement, and for identification of unnecessary movement we first need to record the movements that are being done, and for recording the basic movement we make use of the therbligs. So if you remember, in the previous session we have seen that how to conduct a micro motion study. We have seen that first we need to film the worker who is performing the task at the micro motion level. So after filming we will analyze the film frame by frame, and then at different slow motion pictures at different speeds we will try to analyze, identify that what are the various basic motions being done by the worker, and once we are able to identify those basic motions we will prepare a SIMO chart in which we will have a time scale also, and where we will use these symbols to depict or to describe the work being done by the worker at the micro motion level. So first we need to make a film, then we need to analyze a film, then we need to break down the work into the micro motions, then we need to make a SIMO chart in which we will use these micro motion symbols, and then analyze that what are the unnecessary movements, what are the unnecessary motions of the human limbs which can be avoided. Are there some motions which can be economized? Are there few motions which can be combined? Are there few motions which can be totally eliminated? So when we are able to reduce or economize or eliminate the unnecessary motions, in that case what we are achieving? We are achieving a better sequence or better pattern of movements which is not only economical from the point of view of time, but is also helpful for the worker in reducing his fatigue. So he will get less tired if he use these economized sequence of body motion. So that is important from the worker's point of view, and it is also important from the organization's point of view, because the overall labor productivity will improve when the worker will perform the task in a much more effective and efficient manner. So these therbligs are really important maybe tools which will help us to economize our efforts. Now types of therbligs, now broadly they are divided into two. One are the effective therbligs. Now what are these effective therbligs? They contribute to the improvement in the work efficiency by less time consumption. So they will lead to less time consumption and will lead to the improvement in the work efficiency. Ineffective, opposite of effective. So effective are leading to improvement in the work efficiency, ineffective will lead to increasing the time that is consumed. Maybe sometimes there is a rest period, so it is an ineffective time, so it will lead to increase in the time consumption. So it decreases the worker efficiency by increasing the time consumption. So broadly they are divided into two, but in general we can keep in mind all these 18 therbligs, the symbols used for these therbligs, and then we can plot the way the worker is doing the job. First we need to understand what are the various motions and then plot it. How to plot it using a SIMO chart we will see in the subsequent class. What are these therbligs we will try to understand. So you may not classify them into effective or ineffective, but we must know that what are the various therbligs, and depending upon the requirement we must use them in the specified form in which they are listed. Now let us see the thermalics one by one. So what are the effective thermalics? First one is reach or transport empty. So why the word or is coming? Because the book that we are following as per ILO book on work study, it is transport empty, and in some of the other references you may find it as reach also, but the symbol is more or less same. This is transport empty symbol, color is olive green. Now instead of going into the difference in the nomenclature or the name being followed by different books or by different e-notes or different internet sources, but the meaning remains same. Transport empty basically means motion of an empty hand to or from the object. Now suppose this pointer is lying here, I am standing here, I want to pick this pointer and point it out towards the screen. So my hand is moving to the pointer. So this is transport empty, TE, and now if I pick it and bring it back, it will be transport loaded, because now the hand is moving and in the loaded condition I have picked this up. Now suppose in two-handed process chart we will depict these motions by transportation symbol only if we want to depict. So here this movement is further subdivided, so it will be transport empty or reach, then it will be grasp, then maybe it may be lift, and then again transport loaded. So you have now one motion which is normally the transportation in two-handed process chart, we have further subdivided into transport empty, grasp, or sometime if 3-4 things are lying here, I have to first locate. So location can be one thing, or searching can be one thermalic. Then after searching I have to find, then I have to maybe grasp and then move. So one motion of transport normally in case of a higher level of graphical tool used in case of method study, micro motion divides the total element or the activity into its most elemental motions. So maybe here grasp is also added, which we have seen in the previous session also when we started our discussion on micro motion study. So this is the first symbol, reach empty, reach or transport empty. So what is given here? Motion of an empty hand to the object, time depends on the distance moved, usually preceded by release and followed by grasp. So maybe it is followed by grasp and preceded by release. So preceded by release means that suppose my hand is having this thing, now I have released it, so it is preceded by a release, and then I am coming back, it is transport empty. So normally it is, usually it is not in all the cases, just to explain that in some of the cases, like now I have used this pen, I have released it and now my hand is empty, it is transport empty to my pocket. So that is basically the symbol or micro motion symbol for transport empty. For example, moving empty hand to grasp a screw on the table, which I have already explained, moving empty hand to grasp the pen which is lying on the table. This is one micro motion. The second micro motion is move or transport loaded. So it is opposite to that. Transport empty means the hand is not carrying anything. Transport loaded means that the hand is carrying a pen or a pointer or a screw or a nut or a screwdriver, anything. So movement of a loaded hand, time depends on the distance, weight and type of the move. So it is, in case of empty it was only dependent on the distance, but when it is loaded it will depend upon the weight that you have lifted and the type of the move also, usually preceded by grasp. So before transport loaded, what you need to do, what can be the preceding activity? Grasp, because first you have to grasp, then you have to move, that is transport loaded, and followed by release. So first you grasp it, transport loaded, and then you have to release it somewhere, release. So it is followed by release and preceded by grasp. So first you have to grasp, then transport loaded and then release. For example, carrying a screwdriver to the screw head. So maybe carrying this point to the this dashboard, so maybe or to this screen. This is the transport loaded operation. It is followed by, suppose both my hands are empty, grasp, or maybe transport empty, grasp, transport loaded, do the operation, transport loaded only, and release. So this is maybe a simple sequence of micro motions. So carrying a screwdriver to the screw head is transport loaded example. Then grasp, closing fingers around the object, begins as the fingers contact the object and ends when the control has been gained. Time depends on the type of grasp, usually preceded by reach and followed by move. So maybe grasp is preceded by reach. So I have reached this, I have grasped this, and then I will move. So move, we have seen that in the previous case it can be, if we go back and see, the reach is transport empty. So again we are following there, the same word is there, it is reach. The reach is here. So our grasp will be preceded by reach. So first we have to reach it or transport empty, then grasp it, and then followed by the move. Example is closing fingers around a screw lying on the table. Now on the table, suppose some screw or a nut or a bolt is lying. So we are transport empty, reaching there, grasping it, that is closing down our fingers, taking control of that thing. That is basically an example of grasp. Release load, you can see the symbols also. This is a symbol for release load, clearly depicting that this load will be released in this direction. Relinquishing control of object, typically the shortest of the thermalic. So releasing a particular thing or a particular article or a equipment that or a part that you are carrying, releasing it is release load. Letting go of a component in a tray. So if you are having some component in hand, for example you have completed the assembly, now you release the assembly in the drop box or in the box storing the final assemblies, so that operation will be, or micro motion will be, release the load. Preposition, symbol is given here. Preposition, positioning object in predetermined location for later use, usually occurs in conjunction with move, as in orienting a wrench for tightening a bolt. So first you have to preposition wherever you have to use the wrench. So first you preposition there and then you will operate. So first you can say positioning it at a place where a later operation has to be carried out, which is given here. Positioning object in predetermined location for later use. So later use may be the fastening, but you are just positioning your your wrench at a particular place around the head of the bolt. That is basically the preposition micro motion. Placing a tapered shank drill in a hole in rack, that can be one preposition of later you have to use it, but right now you are prepositioning it at a point. Then use, manipulating a device or a tool for intended use, begins when hand starts to work with the tool or service and ends when the hand finishes the application. Now that is use can be, so if I am using this pen to write on the screen, so this is use. I have manipulated the device or tool for the intended use, begins when the hand starts to work with the tool and device and ends when the hand finishes the application. Using a spray gun to spray on an object, that is depicting a use. For example, if we go to the previous third leg, that is preposition. Now preposition means I have used the wrench, I have positioned it around the head of the bolt. So that is preposition. Use means I start tightening the head of the bolt. So that is basically we can say a use or the thermalic use. So use will be normally preceded by, in case of fastening operations, may be preceded by preposition. So first you have to preposition, then you have to use. Then another thing, that is assemble. You can see the operation symbol here or micro motion symbol here, assemble. Opposite will be disassemble. So assemble, bringing two mating parts together, usually preceded by position. So first we have to position. For example, we want to assemble a nut and a bolt. So we have to first bring the nut and the bolt together. So we will bring the two parts together, and it is preceded by position or move and followed by release. So once we have fastened it or assembled it, then it is followed by release. So this is the assemble operation. Fitting friction cap on the pen. So you bring a pen and the cap together, and then you press it, and then it is assembled. The pen and the cap are assembled, followed by release. You can put it at a place where you want to put the pen. Disassemble, the symbol is shown here. If I need to convert it to assemble, I need to put a line here. If you can go to the previous slide, you can compare the two symbols. Assemble, the next symbol is disassemble without this line. This is the symbol for disassemble. So this is disassemble symbol. What do we mean by disassemble? Separating the mating parts, usually preceded by grasp. So when you have to disassemble, first I have to grasp the object, then followed by move or release, then disassemble it and then move or release to the particular point. For example, the nut and bolt assembly, disassemble and release it at its or release the mating parts at their respective positions or in their respective bins or in their respective boxes. Release the disassembled parts into the respective boxes. So that is the symbol of disassemble or the micro motion of disassemble. Removing the tool from the post or the tool post. Maybe on a lathe machine you have a single point tool mounted on the tool post. So you unscrew the bolt from there and take out the tool. This is disassembly of the tool from the tool post. Next symbol is find. You can see here, this is a symbol for find. Color is gray, and maybe you can find out a situation where you can see an application of find. This can be taken as an assignment. Then we can go to the ineffective thermalics. Find, you must remember that you have to do this as an assignment, can be a question in the exam related to example of find thermalic or thermalic, that is find. Now ineffective thermalics, this is search. Find means you have found something. So that is maybe if you are find will be preceded by search. So first you will search something, then you will be able to find. Find, after finding you may be grasping. So the finding will be preceded by search. So what is search? That we can see here. Eyes or hands hunting for an object begins as the eyes move into locate an object. That is searching a 5 mm drill from a box containing assorted drills. So there are a lot of drills of different sizes, different colors. So we want to find out a 5 mm drill from there. So that is basically a searching operation. So once we have searched it, we have located, we have found out, the search will be followed by find, and find will be preceded by search. Select. So once you have found out the drill, you will select it. So symbol is also given here, light gray color. Choosing one item from the several, usually preceded by search. So first you will do search, then you will select, or you will find and then you will select. A 5 mm drill is located in a box containing the assorted drills. So you have now out of a assorted or a number of drills in the box, now you have selected the 5 mm diameter drill. Then the position, that is next thermalic symbol is given. Turning or orienting object during work, usually preceded by move and followed by release. So position means I have, suppose this pen is here. Let us see what do we mean by position. First one is move. So my hand moves to this particular pen. Then it is followed by position. I have grasped it maybe, and then I have moved, transport loaded, and then I have maybe if I want to write something here or draw a particular symbol here, this is you can say use, and then I have, When I have used it, I have drawn it, but position means I have just taken the position here. My pen is now on top of the board or top of this screen. So this is position. And then once I have positioned it, I will release. Maybe in different scenario the definitions may be slightly different for the different, because in this case so many other thermalics or micro motions are coming into picture. So position can be, suppose I want to fix a nail in the wall. So position means I have placed the nail on top of the wall, and now I want to use my hammer and fix or the nail in the wall. So that can be one example of positioning the nail at the place where you want to insert it. Or positioning, the example is given, positioning the screwdriver to bring its tip into the slot of the screw head. Very good example given here, that there is a screw head, I will bring my screwdriver and position it at top. I have not started to rotate or screw, I have just positioned my or aligned my screwdriver with the screw head. So that is basically the meaning of position. The next one is the symbol for inspect, comparing object with standard, generally with sight, but could also be with other senses also. So once you are inspecting something, example can be visually checking the presence of any scratch on a coated surface, or if you have painted a surface, you can check whether the painted surface is okay, whether the painting is uniform, or are there some abrasions or some problems or some non-uniform distribution of the paint. So all that can be observed using your visual perception. So that is basically the if you are doing that, that will be called as a inspection. Then plan. All of us do little bit of planning. So the plan, the symbol is given here. It is a mental reaction. It is pausing to determine the next action, usually detected as a hesitation preceding the motion. So when we are not doing actually any physical work, but we are trying to figure out that how to do the next operation, in that case we will put the micro motion symbol or micro motion activity as planning activity. In making an assembly, an operator decides which part should be assembled first. So suppose 3-4 parts have to be assembled, and which is a new work being assigned to a worker, he is not aware that which part must be assembled first. So he has all the parts with him, but he is trying to figure out without doing any physical activity that which part he must take first. That can be termed as a micro motion of planning. Unavoidable delay, which is unavoidable as the word say, beyond the operator's control. So unavoidable is beyond the operator's control due to the nature of the operation. Now suppose usually when the left hand is waiting while the right hand completes its work. So it is unavoidable delay. Using right hand to feed the rotating drill into the workpiece while the left hand waits. So for the left hand it is unavoidable delay, it has to be there. Symbol is also given here. Then the avoidable delay, operator solely responsible for this type of delay can be easily avoided. An operator rotates the lathe chuck by hand before switching on the spindle motor. So maybe he can directly switch on the spindle motor, the chuck will automatically start to rotate. So he is unavoidable, he is unnecessarily delaying it by just trying to rotate the chuck with his hand. Rest for overcoming fatigue. So this is a symbol. Relaxation period appears periodically, not every cycle, depends on the physical workload. An operator pauses during hand forging or hand filing operation. So when the worker feels tired, he is taking some rest, he can, a micro motion symbol, that is a thermalic for rest or overcoming fatigue, can be used in such a situation. Then hold is another thermalic. One hand supports the object while the other does the useful work. Especially in case of fastening of nut and bolt, one hand is holding the bolt in one hand while assembling a washer or the nut with the other hand, holding, and the other hand is fastening the nut onto the bolt. So that is, this is holding, and the other one is use, that is using or doing some operation. Now this is one example. Suppose a man goes into the bathroom and shave. We'll assume that his face is all lathered and that he is ready to pick up his razor. He knows where the razor is, but first he must locate it with his eye. That is search, the first Tharblick. So he is going to shave and already he has applied all the shaving cream. So first he has to locate the razor. So the first Tharblick can be search. His eye finds it and comes to rest, that's find. So he is first looking for the razor, he has located it, he has selected it, he has found, then the next can be that's find. First one is search, his eye finds it and comes to rest, that is find. So I have left the example for find during the discussion. Now you can see what do we mean by find, and now you can frame your own examples of find. So search and find, that is the second. Third is select, the process of sliding the razor prior to the fourth Tharblick, that is grasp. Now just he is going there, he know where the razor is. For that motion of getting the razor, for doing the shaving, there are 4 micro motions. What are these 4 micro motions? Search, find, select and grasp. So this is a summary that we have covered today. In the very beginning I told that at higher levels of analysis we may use only one symbol for this whole activity, taking the razor, one activity. Now taking the razor is further divided into 4, that is the first one is search, then find, then select, then grasp. Fifth is transport loaded. He has selected it, he is bringing, after grasping he is bringing it to the place where he want to use it. Transport loaded, bringing the razor up to his face. And the sixth is position, he positions it at the point from where he wants to start the shaving, getting the razor set on his face, position it. There are 11 other Tharblicks and the last one is you can think. Now for this activity you can make a chart, the list of sequence of activities for a person performing the shaving operation. So you can see that we have gone to the most elemental level of the body motions or the micro motion, and these can help us to economize the effort of the worker. So with this we conclude the today's session. We will start our discussion for the last session of this week, and we will focus our attention on SIMO chart, and we will see that how SIMO charts can help us to improve or to find out the best way of doing the work. Thank you.